The following episode is brought to you by Poison City Brewing, proud makers of Durban Poison Cannabis Lager, the beer that invites you to live your poison.
The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is here. It's real hip-hop music from the soul, y'all. Yeah, check it.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? You got myself, Nasipi Zwane. I'm back again with another episode of Sludge Underground podcast. Today I have a really special human being on the podcast, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. And I'm just going to let him introduce himself, and we're going to basically take the show from there. My homie, please introduce yourself to the people.
Yo, what's up? My name is Slikour, and that was completely fake because we had a whole conversation in the beginning, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's sauce, bro. And obviously I want to get it started off, with you sort of, where the journey sort of began. Where does Slikour sort of come from, and where does, this backstory sort of begin?
Starts in Katlehong, Hudson. That's where it starts. MC Hammer being the artist that I listen to. It literally gets more traction in Leondale with the people that I'm around and the music I'm listening to, who I start meeting people who are maybe similar to a certain extent or have a broader view on culture and content, and share the same kind of view that I do. And from then on, that's the beginning of me meeting the people that I eventually form a group with.
And I like how you mentioned there, the likes of MC Hammer, sort of being a catalyst for basically, you starting out music and whatnot. And how would you say you were able to get onto, people like MC Hammer, who would you even credit that to, if at all?
There's a guy called Francis Metane. I don't know where he is in the world. He had the music, he had the tapes, had the clothes, and he so happened to be in the transport that I was in when we were going to school. And that's where I started really getting to see that world,
Yeah, I like how you mentioned school there and whatnot. For you, how much of an influence would you say, your schooling sort of had on you becoming the person or the artist that we all sort of came to eventually know in the South African, country?
I think that what school did, I think school taught me English, Let me be 100 with you.
Yeah.
It's the 80s, not everyone goes to multiracial school. So just by school teaching me English, it automatically opens up. It allows me to hear what hip-hop is saying, not just the beat, but what it's saying. And it allows me to take those words and internalize them, And I know it sounds like it's a stupid thing to say, school taught me English, but like I say, it's the 80s. Before 94, there's not enough black people going to white schools, or at least learning another language besides the language you learn in the hood. So English, in my personal capacity, that's really what school gave me. It gave me English, and it gave me, it almost gave me an earlier kind of entry to understand what hip-hop is, and internalize it and start relating to it and start aspiring. It's like if you can't speak Chinese, you'll never be inspired by some great Chinese person that's done something, You'll only be inspired by the people who speak your language, even if they're not inspiring you. So you can imagine most kids in the township literally are, besides just watching television and English was so bad, there was a radio. There's something called Radio 2000 where you could watch a TV show and you could switch on a radio and the TV show speaking in English, in Afrikaans, whatever language, and then there'd be a vernacular version of it. So you can imagine being in the hood, like I'm saying, and all you hear is just Zulu, Sotho, Shangaan, whatever you hear. You're only going to be inspired by the things you hear and that you understand. So I think school just gave me English so my inspiration could go a bit, could be taken a little step further beyond the world that I was in. When black people weren't allowed to actually go to multiracial schools even at the time,
Yeah. Are there any sort of hardships that you might have experienced, going to a multiracial school back then?
you know, when you're a kid, you can't really see, you can't really, you already know that you're different. I already knew that I was different, but like, it's almost like we were supposed to be discriminated.
Yeah.
So all the time I kind of stood up against it. It was as if like I was doing something wrong. So the difficulties was me really articulating that, like, no, I'm more than just black, you know, I'm more than just black in a white environment. I'm actually like a human being with a lot of potential. And also like one of the biggest things like you learned in the multiracial is that in the hood when we used to play hard, you know, the shire, you know, like niggas be like doing karate, kicking themselves, punching themselves, you know. Then you go to multiracial and you start doing that and white kids are always crying.
Yeah.
It's no way to handle yourself in a multiracial school, and you know you might even play with some white guys and fight with them, but you beat them up and you get into trouble. You know, stupid things like we used to play cards like Crazy Eight, and at the time 2 rand was a bunch of money. You know, and we literally gamble with 2 rand, and with black folks we do it for fun, we do well, and we bought a white guy one time who wanted to be around the black people. He lost all his money, and I think his mother asked him where his money and what did he do with his money, and he told him he was playing cards with us. And we all got into trouble for that shit because, you know, with white people it was like gambling. It's like, you know, what are you doing, you know? But for us it was like, it's Crazy Eight that we just put in 2 rand. Everybody comes in and puts in 2 rand, and whoever wins, if there's 5 of us winning, walks around with 10 rand. So things like that like, you know, I wouldn't say it was challenges, but it was like almost like cultural kind of differences and mannerisms, you know, in environments, you know. But I was too young to say that I experienced any type of racial backlash, and I really acknowledged it. Because when you're young, you see, the thing about racism is that you only feel racism, and I'm talking about now, I'm not talking about like back then when our parents were going through it.
Yeah.
Today, because we liberated, you only feel racism if you still feel that a white person is more important than you. If they subconsciously you feel that a white person is more important than you. If a white person posts some racist shit, then so what? You know what I mean? It's like I've got the right to say I don't like a white person too. And white people aren't going to make a big thing about it because they're liberated, they're comfortable with themselves. So I just think that like that's where you feel racism really becoming a problem, when you have a problem with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like it couldn't have been said any better, you know, but with the way that you just laid it out now. And, you know, just looking back at your journey sort of as a junior, you're still in school, with your folks, like how did they sort of react to you sort of, you know, during the stages when you were starting to sort of get into hip hop? You did mention your homie that introduced you to all AMC Hammer and 990. So with your guardians or folks or whoever was taking care of you at the time, what was their sort of reaction when they realized it was you actually sort of getting into this hip hop thing, you know?
My parents never gave a damn, because what is hip hop in the 80s? You know, and my parents weren't worried about that, you know. They were just worried about getting me off the streets, you know. They were just worried about me not being caught up in the things that happened. There were bigger things to worry about. I mean, when I was growing up, there were still like political wars, you know. You'd still have Amazulu, like, were burning people's houses, as they would say, you know, people from hostels. You know, there were bigger things to worry about than your child listening to hip hop. Our parents were more worried about like making sure we're not on the wrong side of the tracks, you know. So I think that like this is the reality that like today's world, we worried about things that like 20 years ago we never ever thought we'd worry about. I was using the example that like my parents sacrificed leaving the rural places and working under white bosses in an environment that wasn't accommodating. They sacrificed that so I could be here. And today I'm a sacrifice maybe buying a Maserati or buying a stupid thing so my child could be somewhere else. You know, so is there progress? Yes, there's progress because they sacrificed one thing. I'm sacrificing a stupid thing like a car, you know. or like at stupid debts or whatever the case be. So if your parents like sacrifice almost like the humiliation of working under an apartheid regime, just so they could put you in a better place, and you sacrificing the humiliation of going, maybe let me just go in an Uber instead of driving that other thing or being in that debt. It's almost like there's progress, because the sacrifices is not as pressing as it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But because we're humans and we don't know anything else, we think the sacrifice is as big as it was 30 years ago. You know what I mean?
And sort of, still sticking on your family and folks and stuff. As much as I understand, we'll see they don't really, bother about, you going into hip hop and whatnot. But has there been any role at all that they've played, through your journey, watching you grow and become a successful artist and a businessman? What is sort of their reaction to how things have sort of panned out, when you look back at how things started and whatnot?
Remember when we were doing what we were doing, my parents would rather have me like making noise, like they would say, than me being on the streets. So for them, whether I was R&B or gospeling, it was like, rather that, So I think the biggest thing they gave me is just enabling me to do what I do. You know what I mean? And like whether there's any business acumen, that is the thing that comes from my father, my grandfather. It's like that's something that's passed over. It's just that like you need to know how to. You'll always have it in your bloodline. It's just that you need to know how to apply it in your current world, and you need to be patient and persevere so you can manifest it in your current world. It doesn't mean that you know how to use it, and it doesn't mean that you'll be able to bring it to life, But the reality is that like there's some innate things that you get that just come from your bloodline, which will always be there. It's just that you need to find them and discover them and hold them and make them sharper for your generation and for your world. And that's really what it is. So I can't take credit of becoming what I am from a business person, even from maybe music, and say it's me. The only thing I'm doing is trying to understand how to make it sharper in my world, in my generation, and with everything else happening, right now.
That is proper, bro. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Umshiane. I can see him here. He's actually one of the co-hosts. One of the questions that he would have liked to ask as well is what he's written here, and that you did say what is hip hop in the 80s when you started. Did you ever think SA hip hop would make it this far, bro?
Remember when I started, I've always been a music fan, I never ever started. I was just a fan. And being a fan, I found myself doing it. But like I wrote songs that prophesized what would happen. Like I was saying to someone earlier on, like in 2002, Skwatta Kamp released an album called Cut and Join in 2003. And he talked about one day we will pave way for you. So say what you say. And we're talking about hip hop, one day we won't pave the way for hip hop. And say what you say, because it'll be here to stay. We were prophesizing as a group, and look at it now,
Yeah, that is spot on, bro. And before we even shift to Skwatta Kamp, take me to your first song, man. The first ever song that you wrote as Slikour.
I don't know if I wrote a line. I just know the line. It says, "Cut the crap and listen to this rap." That's a line I had when we started one or grade 2 or something like that.
No, that's proper, bro. So now shifting to Skwatta Kamp, and sort of how did that come about? When did this start? How did you meet some of the guys? Take us through the history.
Skwatta, we all lived in Leondale, like I said earlier. Well, I lived in Leondale, and I got to meet Smacks in Leondale. Smacks went to school with Sip, so who used to be in the group, so Sip joined the group. Nish lived in Leondale. He was my friend, and Nish literally was friends, went to school with Flavor, so he came with Flavor. Infa, basically, I went to school with his cousin, and he introduced me to Infa. Infa went to school with a friend of his, and that friend introduced me to Infa, and that same friend introduced me to Boza, because Boza was his cousin, and Boza came with the rest of the guys from Heidelberg, and everyone just kind of like came to Leondale because that's where the studio was at. And even then, we went to group where just guys who knew each other, and a lot of people would come to the studio at my place at the time. They called it a number 100, you know. So number 100, everybody would come to number 100, and where everything was happening. And the guys that was always committed were those guys, you know. And we said, why don't we just form a group? We just became friends, and we formed a group, and the rest is history.
Yeah, man. And the one thing I could even say about groups and stuff, especially that I've noticed in the band scene, is that whenever there's sort of like a group of homies that come together to make music, or you get together on a business venture, or whatever the case may be, you know, it's always different ideas. There could even be conflicts. How did you guys sort of keep any conflict at all from sort of ending it all? How did you guys persevere through, you know, any disagreements that there might have been?
I mean, I think there's two ways, you know. We created a voting system, and if the voting system literally, before the voting system, there was a punching system. you got to fight for your rights, you know. So we created a voting system, and then we also created like a system that that punishes people, you know, if they don't deliver, come to rehearsal, forget their lyrics, or do some shit that they shouldn't be doing. So we kind of almost created a system, you know, but in between there'd be a bunch of punches and fights that will happen, you know, because we're boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and obviously with different people coming together, there's obviously different influences from, you know, each person that the person, you know, sort of contributes towards, you know, what you guys had going. So what would you say, or who would you say you'd credit your guys' sound as a squad to? Like, you know, what are some of the influences that you guys had as sort of a group?
I mean, we all had different influences, but I will tell you what was popular around the time. You had Wu-Tang that was popular, obviously. We had the Gangstar, you know. I was the NWA kind of Ice-T, MC Hammer. The other guys is Wu-Tang, other guys Redman, Method Man. Most Dead, you know, we all came with like different influences from a Skwatta Kamp perspective. There wasn't one thing. The only thing is that, like, when we put that though in the studio, we wanted to be ourselves, and we wanted to make great songs. And because we had our own studio, we allowed ourselves to practice enough to get to kind of know how to make great songs. We also were very honest with each other, because if your song is crap or your lyrics are whack, you know, nah. And how songs work with us, you had to pitch, you know, so literally you'd have your song, your chorus, you've started it on your own, and you have to pitch it to everybody. And but it's not like your presentation pitch. It's just like people come like, yo, check this out, I got this. And when we say it's dope, then we all start contributing on the song and we start building it from there. So it was always done in that kind of unofficial corporate way of pitching, you know?
Yeah, and obviously with sort of all of you guys, you know, different influences and whatnot, once you guys had started sort of blowing and having sort of a big impact, you know, in South Africa, what would you say, when from the eyes of Slikour, would you say Mhlampe is the difference that you noticed from the time when you guys were still sort of pushing, hadn't really popped, to when things had started popping off? Now all eyes are on you guys. Was there anything different at all, looking at those two sort of different periods?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we went from no one wanting to play us to nothing in hip hop. You see, what people don't understand is that the nature of everything, when it's big, it's in its inception, it's bigger than everything, right?
Yeah.
Today, you know, even if the artists are big, the hip hop artists are big, they're big, but they're sharing a space with each other. And right now, obviously, there's more money. So cultural impact will always, in its inception, will always be bigger than what happens over time. And whenever anything else becomes bigger, that means that it's a new cultural movement that's happening. So if we can say the cultural movement in hip hop has literally moved from where it is to where it is, from where Skwatta Kamp literally moved it from a commercial to where it is. Now, culturally, hip-hop is still what it is. The only new cultural change shift we're going to have is what happens with how it really starts changing things in the digital world. So in that, I don't think there's any other artist as a solo, no matter how the guys can say it on Twitter, I don't think there's any other hip-hop artist, solo group that literally that was culturally as important or bigger than Skwatta Kamp from a commercial perspective. I'm not talking about what POC did, but I'm saying from a commercial perspective, there's nothing bigger than Skwatta Kamp. Because what Skwatta Kamp did, Skwatta Kamp allowed for everything else that comes after that. So with no internet, we were touching people in the most rural and the most grassroots levels of South Africa. They were hearing hip-hop from South Africans for the first time through us. They were hearing hip-hop speaking their language for the first time through us.
Yeah.
Across the board in South Africa, in the most grassroots areas. The difference now is that someone else can argue because what happens when you're on grassroots, you literally build confidence for people to put money. Now, when people put money, they don't just put money on the first year that you touch everybody. The money grows incrementally, like every year. So 15 years later, the money is going to be bigger. 15 years later, the platforms are going to be bigger. 15 years later, you might find that people are literally just going to start a business because of that cultural thing. So the magnitude of everything else looks bigger now, but you cannot really measure the cultural effect except by just saying the cultural effect has influenced everything else that's born off the roots of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have to even talk about like black music culture and black independence culture, music independence, we can never do what Kalawa, Arthur, Ndu, all those guys did because they literally created an independence and a black voice in music that they dictated because for the first time, artists literally had, even if they were signed to a label, they dictated the narrative. So Skwatta Kamp could never beat the fact because Kalawa, Arthur, Brenda Fassi maybe to a certain extent, even Chico, all these guys literally gave us the power to dictate the narrative in what we say in our music. Whether it's hip-hop, whether it's porn. So Skwatta Kamp literally picked it up from there and literally put it into hip-hop. You know what I mean? So we were never influenced by anything. Our thing was by anyone in particular, but we created a sound. I mean, Skwatta Kamp's got some new music now, and when we play the music to the people go, oh, now I know this is a Skwatta Kamp song. And you go, what we created was a sound because no one had heard anything like Umoya, like that song in the world before, like Landela, no one had heard those things before in the world.
Just touching on what you actually said there, one of the points was Skwatta Kamp has some new music now that you guys sort of listen to. Referring to that, to the question that Utreja has is, do you think you guys will make another record ever, or are you guys fully retired at this point?
Oh, we definitely got records for days. It's just been a timing thing of when we want to release. In fact, without COVID-19, Skwatta would have already released a single, but what we did, we just released an essential. So, the Skwatta Kamp Essential album, which is all the joints that we've done, some of our best joints, we've literally got that we released that on streaming platforms, and that's been doing pretty well. So yeah, definitely we are working on some rips. I think we got over 30, 40 songs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I think we got 10 songs, 10 or 12 solid songs that we believe in.
Hey, that is solid, bro. And I think we've learned quite a lot, when it comes to the history and where everything sort of started. I want to transition now to, and shift onto SlikourOnLife, how did that sort of, come about? What was sort of the inspiration behind you sort of getting that going?
SlikourOnLife literally as a platform would have never existed if Skwatta never created the foundation for hip-hop and for me. So that was started because I felt that there's no narrative for artists, not just hip-hop artists, but just general artists in the media. This was before social media obviously was popping, but I always thought that if you get on radio, you get 3 minutes to talk, but then you go and you watch globally and you got a whole 24-minute special on Jay-Z, on Rihanna, on Mary J. Blige, but you don't find that for South African artists. So it's difficult for South African consumers to literally feel that South African artists actually are a cut from the cloth that they cut from, because radio, television wasn't enabling that. But I think social media has enabled that right now, where people are speaking their minds, doing what they're doing, and people are connecting. That's why artists have got so many followers, because people are connecting to those stories, you know what I mean? And they're connecting to them as people, you know?
Yeah, and also, you know, just to touch on here, a question that one of my co-hosts has, Ulunati drops as well. Since we are talking about SlikourOnLife, just want to refer to the beginning, you know, reminiscent to the beginning of Skwatta Kamp. Starting out SlikourOnLife, you know, how would you say you financed or invested in, you know, SlikourOnLife, you know, before it became what it is now? I don't believe you just randomly one day woke up and boom, it just sort of popped, you know. So what did you have to sort of invest in that to make it what it is today?
You know, people think that everything is an investment of money, and you know, it's dedication, it's conviction, and it's sacrifice of everything else. I haven't dropped music in 10 years, you know, because I put my energy in this one thing. I knew I don't have the capital to build it, and the only capital I have is the capital of time. So I did it every day, you know. I did it every day so it could get to where it is. I still do it like every day, like whether it's the business side of it, whether it's the content side. I mean, what people don't know is that like I'm learning new things. You know, I've built a team, maybe edits, whatever. But even during this quarantine, I've learned how to edit. You know, I've been learning how to edit. You know, for some of the content, because I built a team, maybe able to do that. But it's just a consistent just putting in your time, you know, and getting yourself ready for whatever might happen, and that's all you have. If you don't have money, you literally just have time. And I just choose, you know, is my time going to be in struggling to get attention from people who won't give it to me, or will I put my time into struggling to build something that I believe in? And so you got to choose your struggle, you know. So I chose to struggle to build something I believe in. And culture is not going anywhere. In fact, SlikourOnLife literally will go beyond me, because that's why, you know, I'm not like the one that's writing anymore. That's why it's important for me to, as it grows, to get young people who connected, know what's happening in the streets, to work with. You know, I mean, I'm always, although I'm listening to most of the music on my platform, but I'm always calling the guys that I work with, going, yo, what do you think about that? How people receiving that whole AKA thing? Am I missing it? You know, the app. You know, I'm always asking, you know, because I need to, because I'm interested, you know. But I also need young people who also connected and are passionate about the culture in their own way. So I never stop asking, you know.
Yeah, and obviously with this SlikourOnLife as well, you know, I really believe in Uguti. You know, you never stop learning, you never stop growing. And with, you know, all the artists that you've had on SlikourOnLife, all the interviews that you've done, what have you sort of taken away from all the artists? What is a common pattern or something that you can say, you know what, this is what I've learned from communicating with all these, you know, major artists?
I think everybody wants to be reaffirmed, and there's nothing more important than reaffirming something that came out of someone's mind, that came out of someone's heart, especially if it's positive. You know, it's almost like you are encouraging that energy of positivity, because when the song becomes big, that means that the positivity now has just gone viral. So one thing I've learned is that everyone who's put in time literally deserves to get that acknowledgement. And it's one thing to like someone's post, but it's another thing to say, I heard it, you know, I hear where you're coming from. Whether I agree with you, whether I don't agree with you, I hear where you're coming from. And the more we engage ourselves in content and in what people say, the more we also start seeing the world beyond ourselves. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, I mean, I'm learning a lot about how human everybody is and how determined people are to chase their dreams. Sometimes inspired and motivated, you know, as if I've never done it before. So that's sometimes what I get from some people. Some people inspire me, some people motivate me, some people make me question their hunger, you know, that hunger, what drives that hunger. And some people, you know, are great, but then they sometimes need a push. And that's what the point is with my interviews. My interviews are not just to talk about what they're going through or whatever, or just the music, but it's just maybe sometimes people need a push, you know?
Yeah.
And And that's what we need to do. It's encouragement. We got to reach out to each other, and we got to encourage each other. I'm a total stranger to most of these artists also, never mind who my name is, but I'm a total stranger. And imagine you could just go out to a person in the streets and go, yo, I saw what you wearing. Yo, man, that's nice. The detail, you took some time to do that, I'm that dude with music, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And obviously with the platform that you have, bro, we need to definitely talk about the youngins, the artists that are really just upcoming at this point. What is it that, SlikourOnLife looks for in order to get someone maybe playlisted or to get someone on the platform? Anyone who might be chilling at home making music and wanting to submit, what is sort of the criteria that you guys look for?
I don't look, I listen.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People are trying to look. Music is something you listen.
Yeah.
I don't need to look, I listen. And listening literally then literally tells me where a person is going. Then after I listen and then I start engaging with what I've listened to, meaning the artist, then I can start going, this is where I think this person is going. You know what I mean? So I don't like this looking thing is a problem. We need to listen.
Yeah, no, that's dope, bro. And one of the last points that I really just want to touch on, I want to get your perspective on the Durban sort of music scene. What is your perspective on that? Where is it at? What are your views, man?
When you say the Durban music scene, you're saying the Durban music scene globally. I think here's one thing. I was saying this to, I think, Abdus the other day. I was just saying, the way Durban moves, I wish Durban was in Joburg, because the guys are so empowered and they know how to work with each other. Besides people having personal issues here and there, but the guys know how to work with each other, and there's a sense of knowing self with Durban people, versus Joburg. There's almost most people will comply to anything that makes you needs to make you pop here in Joburg, But I think Durban is one city that's been able to make their own rules. I've seen that the Durban municipality has also been very supportive in creating that foundation for artists to work together, young artists, in particular, I think Durban is probably one of the most progressive cities too. As an interesting fact is that most artists that are doing things globally or getting acknowledged globally literally stem from Durban. You think Black Coffee, Jabba with his MTV award, or was it the BET award? You think of Umuzi now with his collaboration that he's been doing with the guys from that other international group that just remixed his song, But you look at most of these artists that are doing things outside the country. Most of them are coming from Durban, and if not, a few of them are coming from Joburg. Not enough of them are coming from Joburg, you know what I mean? So, you really could see that, Durban for me is nasty as well. Yeah, nasty, You think of Nasty C, you know what I mean? Sketchy Bongo, even he got that deal that he got globally also, you know what I mean? It's actually, and Durban acts like your Skatamia acts, your Big Zulus, just as Skatamia acts to fill up stadiums, and it's not like a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Durban doesn't know what they have. I think Durban sometimes feels like just because they don't have maybe an empty police office or that office here, there's something missing. But I think Durban has proven to us that the artists are hungry, and they've proven to us that they know who they are. And I think that's one thing I want to really stress. The world is not asking you to try be another American. You can be influenced by them, but there's enough Americans out in the world. And that's why I'm even showing my choice, all these artists that are really pushing things globally. There's a connection to self. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. I think Durban is right now. I think Durban has been, not even right now. Durban has been consistently forward in Black music and culture, and that's because also it's run by mostly Black people. Joburg, even if you're popping in Joburg, most times you're not your own boss, or most times you need to answer. And if you're not answering to your own boss, to that boss, you're not just doing as well. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah, and with you guys as a SlikourOnLife, we're almost at the end of the show. With you guys as a SlikourOnLife, are there any upcoming Durban artists that you guys sort of have an eye on, have been keeping tabs on?
I mean, because we got a bunch of, we don't, you see, my thing is that I don't try to make us like one artist centric, you know. We got to support, and I don't want to make us city centric. We got to support everything and everyone, you know what I mean? So if I had to name like the kid who's been really like trying to give to me is like King Script. It was Lord Script, you know, Robin Third, you know, but these are some of the guys I'm mentioning, but we sometimes post things and we don't know where people are from.
Yeah.
You know, and even on my OnLife radio, I don't know half of the people's songs I'm playing. I don't know 95% of the music that of the people, I don't know them personally.
Yeah.
Now, if I start wanting to know people, if I start wanting to know where people are from, then that's when you start bringing like the barriers that every other platform has created.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, borders were created by colonizers. You know, we're not going to create borders. We just listen and take it in. And if you moving, we move with you. If you're moving with us, we move together. If your shit is dope, we keep hitting you up. I mean, I was speaking to Nels yesterday from Durban, and I mean, Nels has been trying for 4 or 5 years after Who's the Hustle, just trying and trying and trying.
Yeah.
She hasn't stopped. And now I go outside listening, and now I start looking. Now I've moved from listening to looking, because I see her. She's literally always trying. Even if she dropped a song that wasn't great, like I will be behind her, I'll support her, because I know she's been trying to get out there. You know what I mean? That I think is not great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is solid, bro. And obviously, last point, we've been hit with this pandemic, man. So what is the way forward with you? And, you know, what are the plans, bro? Future plans, you know, pandemic considered?
I don't really want to talk about my plans right now on the real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the time, you know. Right now, we're listening. I'm listening right now.
No, that is solid. That is solid, bro. Yeah, so before we even close out with the show, are there any shout outs, you know, anything, any last sort of comments that you want to give out before we bow out?
Yeah, I guess let me shout out everybody that's been on the live, you know, in and out, you know, and pretty much that's it.
Oh, well, that is solid, bro. Slikour, thank you so much, man, for joining me on the show. It was a really epic learning experience, man, chatting with you. I learned so much that I didn't know, and I'm really hoping that everyone else that tuned in also learned a lot. And yeah, man, I'm not going to take any more of your time. Thank you so much. Where can people get in touch with you? Online, social media? Where is all your stuff available?
I mean, it depends, you know. This is like my kind of personal one. That's Metane. Right. You know, SlikourOnLife is mine, as well as the teams, you know, the team that has access to that. So what I miss, the team is able to get, you know, from there. And contact at onlife.co.za.
Thank you so much for tuning in. The episode is going up on Spotify, Sludge Underground Podcast, on Apple Podcasts, it's Sludge Underground Podcast, and on SoundCloud, Sludge Underground. Do catch us on our social media on Instagram at Sludge Underground, on Twitter at Sludge031, and obviously on Facebook, Sludge Underground. We basically have to close out the show with you know, a song. So on your side, what track are you really vibing to right now that we can sort of, you know, play out with?
Man, just play whatever you have, man. Don't make me think.
All right, no, that's proper, bro. Thank you so much, man. Treasure sending some love there as well, bro. Can't thank you enough. You can pretty much sign out at this point.
Thank you, my bro.
Oh, we're epic.
I try to make Mission Impossible look so easy. I got all my bros and my niggas, yeah, they with me. We going in like full force, that's why we're busy. I try to make Mission Impossible look so easy. I try to make Mission Impossible look so easy. I got all my bros and my niggas, yeah, they with me. We going in like full force, that's why we're busy. I try to make Mission Impossible look so easy. Yeah, yeah. Hey, woke up in the morning and I told myself I was destined for greatness in my own world. Double drinking last night, it never felt so nice. Thinking about the problems that I done made. Thinking about the movements I wanna create. Good God, it's not so late. I murder this shit with my eyes closed. Your bankroll, low flex mode. We out here busy hustling. Hustle, 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 yeah. Once we that big shit, whoa, you niggas ain't famous. Everybody wanna be famous. We see the bus and go crazy. Don't keep it in, just set the crown and famous already. Mission impossible, mission impossible. Mission impossible. I'm going in like Tom Cruise. Mission impossible. Mission impossible. Mission impossible. I'm going in like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, yeah. Mission impossible.